Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, Israel holding the line, insisting that Iran's nuclear facilities be totally dismantled, and closing 6 UNRWA schools, notorious for curriculums glorifying anti-Semitic violence. Plus, news analysis from the Jewish News Syndicate's Alex Traiman, and former IDF spokesman Doron Spielman. And welcome home. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee greeted by friends in Jerusalem. All this and more on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. We begin with concerns in Israel over the nuclear negotiations with Iran. Some worry the White House seems to be sending mixed signals on what to do with Iran's nuclear program. And Israel is following through on its pledge to close United Nations schools for Palestinian children, at least in Jerusalem. Here's the latest on these and other stories. A major issue is Iran's ability to enrich uranium. President Trump told reporters Wednesday he hasn't decided whether or not to demand Iran stop enriching uranium.
We haven't made that decision yet. We will, but we haven't made that decision yet.
But he also said on the Hugh Hewitt show this week, Iran's nuclear centrifuges used to enrich uranium have to go.
There are only 2 alternatives there: blow them up nicely or blow them up viciously.
Iran is the only country in the world that doesn't have nuclear weapons, yet keeps enriching uranium to the point where it can make nuclear bombs. Israel insists the only way to derail Iran is to totally dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, either voluntarily or through a military strike. When asked Wednesday about whether he's about to propose a new Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal before heading to the Middle East, Trump said the following.
There's a lot of talk going on about Gaza right now. You know that, right? So you'll be knowing probably in the next 24 hours.
Trump stated Tuesday there are less hostages alive in Gaza than Israel has said.
As of today, it's 21. 3 have died. So this is a terrible situation.
But on Wednesday, Prime Minister Netanyahu explained.
We know for sure that there are 21 live hostages. There's no debate about that. There are 3 more who, unfortunately, there is doubt whether they are alive.
Israel's crackdown on UNRWA, working in the Jewish nation, now includes closing 6 schools in mostly Arab Eastern Jerusalem. Students and teachers arrived Thursday to find the schools locked up for the foreseeable future.
When I hugged the teachers goodbye, I started crying because I didn't know which school I'd go to, where I would continue learning.
The United Nations Relief and Works Agency runs much of the education system for Palestinian children, but analysts in Israel say it's teaching those kids to be anti-Israel and pro-terrorist. David Bedin of the Center for Near East Policy Research has been exposing the Palestinian curriculum and UNRWA summer camps for decades. In an earlier interview with CBN News, he showed a page from a textbook UNRWA uses featuring a female terrorist.
This is Dalal al-Mughrabi, who murdered 36 Jews in a terror attack in 1978. And she's glorified in this book, and there's a whole curriculum for her, run by UNRWA.
Bedin says the curriculum is teaching the children to murder Jews and has 3 main points.
1, delegitimization of Israel's existence and the Jews' very presence in the country. 2, demonization of both Jews and Israelis. And 3, the absence of any call for peace.
Still, as Bedin also points out, UNRWA is still using the curriculum in schools in Bethlehem, Ramallah, and Hebron to carry out what he calls indoctrination for the next generation to war. The school closings in eastern Jerusalem come as new poll numbers from Palestinians show half of those who live in Gaza, more than 1 million, feel Hamas did the right thing, launching its October 7th massacre inside Israel. And 85% of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria and 64% of those in Gaza are against disarming Hamas. If elections were held today, 43% of Palestinians would vote for Hamas. Just 28% would vote for the Western-backed Palestinian Authority. And today, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee announced a new U.S.-led plan to distribute humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. He laid out 2 criteria.
The first is that food be distributed efficiently, but also that it's distributed safely inside Gaza to the people who desperately need it. The other factor, and this is an important one, that all of this be done in a way so that Hamas is not able to get their hands on it.
Huckabee blamed Hamas for stealing aid intended for the people and for the lack of aid to the people of Gaza.
We are here today with a crisis, not because of Israel. We are here today because of Hamas. They've initiated the crisis, they have prolonged the crisis, and they have exacerbated the crisis.
Huckabee says the plan will be a partnership of governments, NGOs, and charitable organizations from around the world. And turning to Israel's military battles, since the Trump administration made a separate peace with the Houthis this week, Israel finds itself standing alone against the Yemen-based terror group. But Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz is warning the Houthis will absorb heavy blows from Israel if they continue firing at us. Just this week, Israeli military aircraft destroyed much of the Houthis' main port and nearly all of its main airport. Katz also warned Iran, which arms and funds the Houthis, what we did to the Hezbollah in Beirut, Hamas in Gaza, to Assad in Damascus, and the Houthis in Yemen will also be done to you in Tehran. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up next, Alex Traiman from the Jewish News Syndicate looks at the week's events with CBN News' Gary Lane. So many changes are coming at lightning speed in Israel and the Middle East. It can feel like a political and cultural earthquake. Gary Lane spoke with Alex Traiman, CEO and Jerusalem bureau chief from the Jewish News Syndicate, to sort it out on CBN's program, The Global Lane. Here's their conversation.
After Donald Trump announced a cessation of back-and-forth hostilities with the Houthis, he says he has a big announcement coming as he prepares to depart for the Middle East. What is it? Joining us to share his thoughts is Alex Traiman, CEO and Jerusalem bureau chief with Jewish News Syndicate. Alex, always good to talk with you. So Trump says he'll make a very, very big, earth-shattering announcement, as big as it gets, just before leaving for Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE next week. So if you look at the timing, could it possibly be an expansion of the Abrahamic Accords? What do you think?
Gary, nice to be with you. Certainly people speculating that it could be some kind of normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Many had assumed that you would not get to such an agreement during the war, especially as Israel is now preparing to have a new offensive inside the Gaza Strip, and the Iranian nuclear threat is yet to be diffused. There are also people that are suggesting that it may be an announcement regarding Iran. And there was reports on Persian media, which we're still trying to confirm, that the new president, Pezeshkian, may even be meeting with Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia during the trip. Again, we have to look to confirm those reports, and we don't know what's ultimately going to happen, but it could be that President Trump is going to announce that there's been some kind of breakthrough in the talks with Iran. So a lot of possibilities, and the president really keeps people guessing with regard to major announcements.
Well, I want to talk about Iran in a moment, but back to this whole idea of the Abrahamic Accords expansion there. What would that mean for the Middle East and Israel?
Well, Saudi Arabia has really been considered the prize from the beginning with regard to any kind of normalization agreements with Israel, Saudi Arabia being the cradle of Sunni Islam. But I think for Israel, for the Saudis, this could be a major economic boost for the region. The president would like to see the creation of some kind of alternative pipeline coming from the Arab world and a new trade route, basically going through from India through the Gulf states onto Israel, which could then transport goods to Europe and to the Western world. So there's a lot of possibilities if a normalization agreement could be reached.
Yeah, and it would further isolate Iran. And onto Iran, U.S. nuclear negotiator, presidential envoy Steve Witkoff has received some criticism here in the U.S. as a fine business negotiator, but one who doesn't really understand the Iranian mindset and the Middle East. So do you agree with that? And what's the danger of miscalculating, not understanding Islam and Iran?
Well, you have the same negotiator who, doesn't really have much experience at all as a diplomat, a businessman who is leading the negotiations with the Qataris and Hamas for the release of hostages in Gaza. The same one who is leading negotiations with Iran. The same one who's meeting with Vladimir Putin regarding negotiations to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. And you had Witkoff also apparently negotiating with the Houthis. Each one of these theaters that Witkoff is negotiating on has a unique culture. The Russians are nothing like the Iranians, which are nothing like the Houthis, which are nothing like the Qataris and Hamas. And unless you really understand the culture of the place in which you're entering to negotiations, you could be played.
Well, let's pray he understands the Islamic concept of taqiyya. What about Gaza? Trump says there are only 21 hostages still alive. Is that accurate? It may prove a bit difficult, I think, to negotiate their release with Operation Gideon's Chariots in full force, the expanded IDF military effort there. What do you think?
Well, the estimates are that there's anywhere from 21 to 24 living hostages out of 59 missing Israelis remaining in the Gaza Strip. And it's been the Israeli position that the only way that you get Hamas to make a reconciliation and to offer to release hostages when they feel like they are under threat. Unless they have the motivation to release hostages, they're not going to release hostages because those are the only cards that they have.
And some members of the U.S. Congress are concerned that Israel is not allowing humanitarian aid to get through to the Palestinians in Gaza. So what do you see happening there? I've heard that trusted groups may be allowed in, and how dangerous would that be for those humanitarian relief workers?
Well, I mean, it's just an unbelievable double standard that you have Hamas declaring war on the state of Israel on October 7th with over 6,000 people crossing the border, murdering 1,200 people, kidnapping 250 others, injuring thousands, and then Israel going into the Gaza Strip in order to remove the terrorists from power and to try to find their hostages. And the international community is putting a demand on Israel to be the one facilitating the delivery of humanitarian aid into an enemy population. I mean, you just have never seen anything like that. Hamas is still a potent military force, much smaller than they were at the beginning. So whoever is going to be delivering humanitarian aid, it's a very dangerous endeavor in one of the world's most backwards and damaged and dangerous theaters.
Yes, not an easy task. Okay, Alex Traiman, JNS Jerusalem Bureau Chief. Always good to talk with you, Alex, and get your insights. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, former IDF spokesman Doron Spielman gives his perspective on Iran, the war in Gaza, and more. Israel's defensive war with Hamas in Gaza has lasted 19 months, and its war strategies will be analyzed in the years to come. But a change has happened in the last few weeks, and former IDF international spokesman Doron Spielman explains the IDF's new strategy in Gaza that it hopes will bring the hostages home. Doron Spielman, great to be with you. You're the international spokesman in reserves for the IDF. Tell us what's happening, especially in Gaza right now. The IDF looks like it's going to have a major push into Gaza.
No, I would say that the entire game has changed, Chris. Up until now, over the last 20 months, our goal has been to try to deter Hamas, try to destroy them, but to be extremely careful around the hostages. And what this really resulted in was striking in and pulling back, striking and pulling back. And the problem is, Hamas understood this right away. The IDF would go into an area like Jabalia or Rafah, and we would think that we cleaned the area. And then as soon as we would pull out, they, via their underground tunnels, would pop back up again. It's like one of those games where you try to bop down one head and another head pops up. That game is now over. What the IDF is now committed to doing, and this comes from the upper echelons, is to hold territory. What that means is the IDF pushes into Rafah, where we have very intense fighting, as I'm speaking to you right now, in Rafah, with our brigades and with Hamas brigades in Rafah. We will hold that territory. As we move into the middle of Gaza, in the Khan Yunis, we will hold that territory to force Hamas to retreat to a smaller and smaller area where hopefully we can finish them. What we know, of course, is what they know and what we all know, is that they will use those hostages into the last minute, but our hope is by pushing them into an area they have no choice to go to, that's when we hopefully can bring these people home and finish with this.
Yeah. What was the reasoning behind the change in strategy?
The other one drew out over the course of 20 months. The IDF, if we had given the order just to finish this completely in October 2023, we probably could have done so in 4 or 5 months. But because we were being extremely careful, because of the pressures from certain United States administrations, the lack of certain arms and weapons, we were held back in terms of doing this. But today, there's an exhaustion of seeing this go forward, where we know we have an enemy on our border that is still as committed to destroying us as he was before, still firing rockets, still attacking our troops, still holding our hostages. There is no other option but to finish with this, and we can't be doing this for years. It's not good for Israel, it's not good for the people of Gaza, and therefore the decision was made, this is a war, fight it like a war. No war has ever been won without holding territory. You cannot win a war by strike attacks. Enemies know how to go underneath the ground. The name of the game is to hold the territory, force them into a specific area, and finish with them.
Yeah, the biggest issue right now in the Middle East is Iran, its nuclear program. It seems like Israel's would appreciate the opportunity to go ahead and strike, but now there's negotiations going on. How is it difficult? How does that complicate things for Israel going forward to try to destroy Iran's nuclear program?
Look, Iran is an issue that Israel is convinced, even if there are negotiations that take place today, and I say this as a private individual, even if there's some type of agreement that comes to be, no one trusts Iran. The United States of America doesn't trust Iran, and Israel doesn't trust Iran, which means there's no scenario where they are going to take apart their entire nuclear program and dislodge it. Let's just say that they freeze where they are. Well, we know right now, based on foreign intelligence reports, that they are 2 weeks from having enough uranium in order to create a nuclear weapon. Therefore, even if they hold back for 2 or 3 years, we could find ourselves in a situation then where they'll just create a weapon. The only answer for Iran is taking out their nuclear program. Hopefully, the international community will get involved in this. This is not just Israel's problem. This is a problem of the entire world. The regime of Iran is a problem for the people of Iran. If that regime was to change and there could be hope in Iran, it would bring us an entirely new Middle East, Chris, and that's what we're hoping is going to happen.
Just a few days ago, there was a Houthi missile that hit Ben Gurion Airport. The IDF responded very strong against Houthi. How do you see that playing out?
The Houthis have been hit considerably. The Sana'a airport is completely destroyed. Their docks and some of their naval ports are destroyed, but it is only probably going to happen with a continued strike. There's no way the Houthis, they've even said now, even with the agreement they made with the United States of America, Israel, they say, and Israeli shipping are still targets, and Israel is still a target. So while they're down, they're not out. Again, if they are attacking international shipping, this is an international issue. If they are attacking Israeli shipping in international waters, this is a casus belli for war. This is an international issue. As soon as any ship is taken hostage from international law, they're going against international law and need to be dealt with by the international community, and that's what needs to happen here ultimately.
Final question, Doron. You've been on the front lines since October 7th. You've seen the kibbutzim on the border. You've seen the atrocities. Now we are about a year and a half after that. Talk about what your feelings are after a year and a half and what you've seen and experienced there in the front lines.
I'm in awe of the people that have returned back to this kibbutzim. What I saw on the front lines on October 7th and October 8th, I'll never forget. It was like a Holocaust in the modern day. And the people who went through it are rebuilding their lives in those communities with those burnt buildings where their loved ones died right next to them. It's such a national commitment to the state of Israel. It's such a belief in this country that we have nowhere else to go and that this is our biblical right, that it is a feeling of incredible strength, that can happen. They didn't move back to Tel Aviv. They're rebuilding in their homes. This has unleashed an element of Israel, Chris, that I'm so proud to be here, and I think Israelis are proud to be here. And we stand together, and we're not going to allow our enemies to beat us. The entire Middle East has already changed. Nasrallah, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Diaf, they're all gone. Whoever tries to destroy the people of Israel, we know from 3,800 years of history, doesn't bode well for them, and it's not going to bode well for them this time either.
Doron Spielman, great to be with you.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Up next, a warm welcome for U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee at the Friends of Zion Museum. Earlier this week, members of Israel's government, diplomats, evangelical leaders, and friends welcomed the new U.S. ambassador to Israel, former Governor Mike Huckabee. Here's a look at the packed event held at the Friends of Zion Museum.
Thank you for taking this mission in historic time. We are in historical time right now in the state of Israel, while we are fighting with 7 different countries. And it's also the right time to thank for the United States of America, President Trump, and you, Mike, for all what you are doing for the state of Israel and to the Jewish people as well.
Mike Evans, the founder of the Friends of Zion Museum, hosted the event.
It was historic. We have, for the first time in the history of the state of Israel, a Bible-believing ambassador in the Bible land, Mike Huckabee. Israelis were saying to me, this is like a church service. Israelis were telling me that. I think it was. The hostage families were here. Ambassadors from all over the world were here. Israeli diplomats were here. It was a celebration of moral clarity. They know they have a friend of Zion in Mike Huckabee.
No greater honor could be bestowed upon me than to be called a friend of the Jewish people. That may seem strange. Why is it that I, as a Christian, would have such a connection to the Jewish people? I try to explain it. It's pretty simple. It's because without the Jewish people, I don't have a faith. I have nothing. And it is the adherence to the Bible, the belief that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. It is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, upon which everything I believe is held. And God decided to bring his light into the world and his law into the world through the Jewish people. It wasn't my decision, it was his. I respect what God chooses to do. I honor what God chooses to do. And in many ways, I like to tell my friends who are Jewish, I owe you. I'm indebted to you. Without you, my faith doesn't exist. And I hope that makes sense to you. And it's why I have such a revolting hatred toward anti-Semitism, because it's really a hatred toward God.
Evans says Huckabee brings an assurance to the people of Israel.
I think it's hope. It's going to give them hope, because they've had duplicity in the past. 4 years of duplicity through Biden and duplicity through others, Democratic leaders. They know they're going to get honest answers, and they're going to get a genuine person that wants to help them. There's 2 of them. There's Donald Trump, there's Mike Huckabee, and then, of course, you even have Mark Rubio. It's just terrific.
Huckabee also said he's come home.
We have come to Israel so many times. I've been here over 100 times in the past 52 years. Normally, we come, we're here for a couple of weeks, we bring several hundred people at a time, and then we go home. And the other night we were sitting talking, and I said, typically after 2 weeks we go home. This time, we are home. Here, 2 years. Thank you.
And well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. We want to leave you with Psalm 121, very encouraging scriptures for these tumultuous days. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Chris Mitchell. For all of us here at the Jerusalem Bureau, we'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.